Hi everyone, my name is Rabah. I am a lawyer at AP Lawyers, and today I will be answering the question of what to do if I do not want to pay child support. This is a bit of a dicey one because child support is the right of the child, and as a result of that, the courts are very reluctant to want to depart from the child support guidelines. The child support guidelines is kind of a table that basically it shows, how much you make and how much you should be paying in child support, obviously corresponding to the number of children that you're paying child support for. So that's something that the courts tend to very heavily lean on. So it's very rare that the courts will order that no child support should be payable if you do have a child support obligation. But then we need to obviously have the conversation of, do you actually have a child support obligation? So in this situation, is there somebody who's better suited to make child support payments? For example, if you're a person who's not a biological parent of the child, is there a way that the biological parents could be contacted and that person should be making child support payments instead of you? In the same vein, if you're a person who's a biological parent and doesn't have a relationship with the child, is there a person who stood in place of a parent for the child and that person should be paying child support instead of you? Again, like I said, child support is incredibly hard to contract out of and get out of because, again, it's the right of the child. Courts are very, very reluctant to lean away from that. Another way would be to see if the child is still like a child as defined by legislation. So, a child is defined by legislation as a person who is under the age of 18 years old, or if they're above the age of 18, they are a child as a result of the fact that they're unable to become self-sufficient because of, whether it's education or a disability or an illness or that type of thing. Now, in most cases, child support tends to end after the first degree, but there is some case law to support that child support should go after first degree, so even into a second degree. So, that's obviously something that you would need to think about if it applies to your situation. What is more likely to happen as opposed to like a complete, like no child support would be potentially a reduction in child support, but that would depend on a bunch of different factors. For example, are you earning over $150,000? So there's something in the legislation called the floors and the ceilings. So if you earn under 20,000 or you earn above 150,000, maybe the corresponding child support amounts, maybe that's just a little bit excessive, and a court might order that, oh, that's too much to be paid. Again, it would have to be the closer to 150,000 it is, the less likely a court is to order a reduction on the basis of just that factor. So that's something that you might want to consider. Another factor that you might want to consider is, are you guys having like a shared parenting situation? Many people wrongly believe that shared parenting would be 50-50, but in terms of like, this, it would actually be 60-40. So you want to count in terms of like, is it a shared parenting schedule? Should you be paying child support on something called a set-off amount? A set-off amount would basically mean that both parties are paying child support, but the higher income earner is just paying the difference of those two amounts. That's also something you might want to consider. Also, is there undue hardship here? Are you a person who has a significant amount of debts? Now, these debts wouldn't be regular things of like, oh, I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my mortgage, I have to pay my this. It would be something significant that like the courts would consider that, oh, this is like undue hardship, and as such child support should be reduced on the basis of this. It would have to be something that you'd have to convince a judge of. Also, is it unusually expensive for you to be able to exercise parenting time? So in this situation, for example, do you live in a different province, do you live in a different country where you need to fly, you need to pay for ticket flights and things like that to exercise parenting time? Or do you live in a place that, like, I mean, Ontario is a big province, so do you live in a place where, like a Thunder Bay or like a North Bay or something, where you have to drive for a significant number of hours, spending money on gas, you have to come and, spend money on hotels as well and things like that. So that's something that you want to consider. Also, are you supporting other people? Do you have other children from previous or current relationships that you need to support? Do you have former spouse or former partner that you need to pay spousal support to? So these are things that would be taken into consideration when calculating child support for like a reduction amount. Also, like a standard of living test would obviously apply in this situation as well. I have had people tell me that, like, they think that they wouldn't have to pay child support because they realized maybe years into a relationship that a child was not biologically theirs. That is unfortunately not necessarily the case, because the argument would be that you stood in place of a parent for this child, and as such they think of you as a parent, and so you do have an obligation to support them. I hope that just kind of answers all your questions. If you have any other questions, please let us know. Thank you.